It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice right here, right now. Glad to be with you this morning, and I appreciate it if you've joined us on Patriot FB, perhaps Constitution Club, perhaps you've joined us on America's Voice Now, or perhaps you've joined us on Big Country 99. In any event, I'm glad to have you on board with us this morning. We, I tell you, when you look at the news on a day in and day out basis, it's depressing, to say the least. This morning we're going to talk about a couple of things, not the least of which is Joe Biden's statement and promotion of, frankly, slavery. Yes, slavery. Joe Biden, our vice president, is promoting slavery. He came out and he said the other day, we need a constant, unrelenting stream of immigrants. So I got to ask you a question. Does that not sound like an advocate of slavery around 1840? We need a constant, unrelenting stream of slaves to work? The statement was made to the National Association of Manufacturers, who, of course, are the buyers of the auctioned goods. That would be the immigrants themselves. See, if you don't see this immigration issue in its truest light and for what it actually is, then you've blinded yourself with either emotion or with self-delusion and self-treason. And I say self-treason because self-delusion is exactly that. You're going against what you know to be right for an ideological or a political stance or whatever it is. Just think about it for a minute. Does this statement that Joe Biden made, I'm going to give it to you again, the U.S. needs a constant, unrelenting stream of immigrants. For what, Joe? Does this not sound just like a statement that would have been made by any Democrat pre-Civil War? What do you mean, Democrat? Oh, have you forgotten that the Democrats themselves, they were the actual proponents of slavery? You didn't remember that? Oh, I get it. Maybe your teacher kept that little tidbit from you in the history books. Maybe you ignored that little tidbit of fact because it conflicted with your ideology. Maybe your education prohibited your wetware from gaining that little piece of memory. The only difference between then and now is that it's not only Democrats that are proponents and adherents and advocates of slavery, it's both parties. Democrats and Republicans. Democrats enslaving the American people and any immigrant they can get their hands on, forcing them essentially to become dependent upon government. And the Republicans on the side of the House are just as bad as the Democrats because their goal is to actually have you enslaved as well, to debt, to the bankers, and to them. And how are they going to ensure that you remain a slave? Oh, it's really easy. All you got to do is go pull up the database on Joe Citizen, Cindy Citizen, pull it up. The NSA can give you whatever you want. FBI records, IRS records, health records, mental health records. How much did you earn? Where do you travel? Where do you go? What do you like? What do you watch on TV? What do you buy? What have you looked at on the internet? Who do you communicate with? Who is your circle of friends? I'm going to say it again. If you don't see this immigration and what's happening in our nation at not an accelerated pace, at light speed, and if you do not see those items in their true light as top-down totalitarianism, well then, you've blinded yourself with emotion or self-treason for ideological reasons. There is no other alternative, ladies and gentlemen. None whatsoever. I didn't even get to our second topic yet. Our second topic is not a whole lot better. Obama come out the other day and said, our future rests with dream kids. Excuse me. Just exactly who is it, Mr. President, that you represent? Dreamers? Or the 315 million American citizens that pay the taxes, bear the burdens, put your sorry ass into office? Which is it? I mean, who is it exactly that you represent? Guatemalans? Venezuelans? El Salvadorans? I mean, who is it? Hondurans? Because it sure ain't Americans. Not with a statement like that. Our future rests on the success of dream kids? No, it doesn't. That's a lie. I'm going to tell you the truth. The truth rests upon Americans rising up and removing Barack Obama, removing Congress, removing every agency, removing every judge, and banning all of them from life, from ever working in holding office again. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what our future is required or rests upon. To lock down our border so tight that a gnat can't get through. To permanently eject any illegal who will not register and go to the back of the line from their home country. Our future rests on banning lobbying, a.k.a. bribery. Our future rests on term-limiting legislators to one term. And then that's it. You go home. You're done. No more federal office. You want to go back and be the mayor? That's fine. Our future rests on outlawing the Federal Reserve and any future iteration or anything that even remotely resembles it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is truth. And everything else that you hear is propaganda and mind control, fed to you by your dire enemies. You're too harsh, people say. No, I'm a realist. And you're living in some kind of utopian fantasy. Our third topic. The Iraqi Caliphate exposes for the world to see the Keystone Kops of the New World Order. These bumbling fools are successful in spite of themselves only because of their power, their weight, and their willingness to be ruthless. Our fourth topic. The release of the Taliban 5. Folks, the release of the Taliban 5 is an act of treason. It was an act of treason on the part of Barack Obama. It was an act of treason by the Pentagon. It was an act of treason by the Joint Chiefs. It was an act of treason by Eric Holder. An act of treason by the Department of Justice. An act of treason by Charles Hagel. His name is not Chuck. I don't want that kind of familiarity with a traitor. An act of treason by Charles Hagel. An act of treason by the Department of Defense. An act of treason by the Pentagon. An act of treason by Jay Johnson. An act of treason by the Department of Homeland Security that he runs. An act of treason by John Kerry. An act of treason by the State Department. An act of treason by the entire executive White House staff. this was a criminal conspiracy, an act of aiding and abetting a known terrorist organization, providing material assistance, a violation of the oaths of every person named above, and all of the agencies and departments named above as well. Every person named in that organization, that conspiratorial group, should be charged with treason, and every agency disbanded. That would create chaos, you say. Folks, you can't get any more chaotic than we got now. We got illegals pouring over the border at an unprecedented rate. We've got veterans who waited years, dying because they can't get medical help. And they're barred from getting any other kind of medical treatment. I mean, they're obligated to go to the VA for the self-same thing that's killing them. We've got an IRS that's being used as a weapon of mass destruction, not a cruise missile, a nuclear detonation against the enemies of this president and this ideological group. We've got environmentalists running the EPA, which is going to change forever the nature of water, which is the new oil, and the EPA will be running our energy policy. They already are. You have a Department of Justice that operates like some kind of a private gangster system of justice. They're the enforcers, if you will. You've got a Congress that is acting in open betrayal of their oath of office. Both parties. Neither is free of guilt here. You've got a justice system that is so corrupt they play right into the hands and play right along with the rule book that they've been given. You owe your allegiance to us, not to the public, not to the Constitution, not to the nation at large. And they agree and create precedent out of every treasonous act, coming up with the most inane justifications and rationale for it. You've got a State Department that is in such disarray, these guys can't tie their shoes without written instructions, much less prosecute a war or negotiate on the behalf of a nation which they hate, absolutely despise. You cannot get any more chaotic than that, folks. Removing the entire government and leaving us in a vacuum would not be more chaotic than what we currently have. Let's throw that into the Overton window for a moment and start to actually consider, could it be worse? I don't think so. I really don't. I'd be willing to say, let's hold a mass election immediately. I mean, you got 30 days. Put people in office who are willing to swear and sign a contract that if they act against the Constitution of the United States, that we don't have to try to impeach them to get them out of office. They are summarily dismissed. There is no such thing as tenure, and there will never be an incumbent again because everyone serves one term. That's it. Have a nice day. And after that, you're banned from federal office. Lobbying is illegal, punishable by death. By death. Sound too draconian for you? Wait until Sharia law gets a hold of your ass. What just happened in our nation was an act of treason. And nothing, no chaotic scenario by a shuffling of the deck chairs on the Titanic can make our situation any worse. That's the truth. Let's get to our first topic. Biden came out yesterday and said to the National Association of Manufacturers, who is that? Well, those are the people that need the slaves. I mean, is any of this striking a chord with you? You see, the Democrats were the same people that advocated, promoted, and encouraged slavery in the mid-1800s, all the way up until the mid-1800s. Vice President Joe Biden came out yesterday and told the National Association of Manufacturers that the United States needed more, not fewer immigrants. He calls for a constant, unrelenting stream of new immigrants, not dribbling, but significant flows to bolster the national economy. Really? How will that bolster the national economy, Joe? Explain that to me. What? Manufacturing jobs that don't exist? Why? Because you and your ilk gave them all away for the last 3 or 5 decades. You've been giving them away in the millions to foreign nations. We don't manufacture spit in the United States. How is a constant, unrelenting stream, a significant flow of immigrants going to bolster our national economy? They're going to be taxpayers, you say. Yes, but they're going to be taxpayers to the same jobs at a lower rate and wage than the people that you're ousting, who are still going to be here, unable to pay taxes, and still needing service that will cost the rest of the taxpayers. So explain that to me, Joe, because the math just don't work. So you're going to unemploy the remainder of America to employ a group of people who, first of all, have no part in business here, and secondly, we've got to support, and thirdly, are going to pay less taxes than those people you're ousting out of the jobs. All what? So that you and your party can get reelected again? You pathetic piece of... It's not finished, folks. It gets worse. We need it badly. From a purely economic point of view, the final thing we need to do together is pass immigration reform. We need it badly. Let me just quantify what you're saying here. You are advocating indentured servitude, Joe Biden, and you're advocating slavery. You're advocating slavery that is no different than the slavery that was incorporated into the United States from its earliest days up until 1865. Those of you who are black and listening to this better listen up good, because what they're encouraging right now is the same exact thing that they encouraged throughout all of 1800, right up until the Civil War. The Democrats were the ones who encouraged that. That wasn't Republicans. Now, don't misunderstand me, because I have no respect for them. They are the same thing. They just approach your enslavement, black, white, brown, gay, straight, female, male, something in between. Look, the truth is, they're all about your enslavement, either to debt or to absolute total dictatorial control, where you are a cowed sheep, or outright slavery, as Mr. Biden recommends. What is immigration really about here? Why are the transnationals, the multinationals, the large corporations calling for immigration? Because they can replace American workers at lower wages and then hold them hostage based on their green card. That's it. Nothing else. It's not complicated, people. Everyone wants to say, wait, there's got to be more to it. There's not. It's a base bottom line. How do we drive revenue? How do we keep more? And how do we ensure that we have the upper hand in the negotiation? It's really easy. You always have the upper hand in the negotiation when you have a gun to someone's head. It's called coercion. And those of you who think this is the right solution for you to just pour across this border, those of you that are Americans that are doing this for your own personal families or your own friends or your own loyalty to your old country, had better wake up. Because what you're encouraging is no different than slavery. Listen, indentured servitude, willingly signing up to be a slave, is no different than involuntary servitude. The key operative phrase, the key operative period is what? Slavery. Now, does it matter that you willingly put the handcuffs on yourself and the chains upon yourself? Because once on, they don't come off. So it doesn't really matter whether it was your choice or whether it was involuntary. The end result is the same. The end result is the same. Your enslavement. And your enslavement, whether to debt or threat, makes no difference. Your enslavement, whether under the level of coercion that says, you should fear us because we know so much about you, we can find something to make you pay. And if we have to twist the truth a little bit, well, hey, you can't make omelets without breaking a few eggs. You've been listening to America's Voice. Communicate with me directly at mike@americasvoicenow.org. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to take our second topic. Now we're going to go from the vice president to the president, because President Obama came out and said our future rests with dream kids. Excuse me? No, that's not what our future rests upon, Mr. Barack Obama. Our future doesn't rest upon foreigners invading our shores. Do you think the French said our future rests in Germany's invasion of our nation? Do you think the Polish said that? Think the Russians said that? You think the Lithuanians said that when the Russians came across their border? Think the Romanians said that? When have we ever had a president that openly advocated invasion? That's essentially what he's saying, folks. He's openly advocating invasion. He's a traitor. His actions are treason. Period. We're going to take a break. Make sure you visit our friends over at Battery Station, batterystation.com. Outstanding friend and supporter of this program. Great company. Really good people. Batterystation.com. 303 Washington Avenue, 417-257-7799. 303 Washington Avenue in West Plains, 417-257-7799. Make sure that you see our friends over at Pizza Hut, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Reduced lunch price, Tuesday evening. Kids under 12 eat free. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now. America, when are you going to get sick of treason? It's everywhere. It's all around you. It's your House, it's your Senate, it's your President, it's your Governor, it's your State House, your State Assembly. It's your Republicans, it's your Democrats. It's every federal agency, every state agency. They all seek your subjugation. They all seek your enslavement. They all seek your money. They'll bleed you dry as long as they can retain their position of authority and power. And they are drunk with the heart blood of America. Drunken pirates. That's what they are. Drunken pirates. Every one of them. There's good people in government. Where? Show them to me. Show me. Show me somebody who says, you know what? I'm in government, and I'm going to expose it for what it is. Show me somebody. They won't. You know why? Because it's against their own personal best interest. They will lose their job, and therefore their power. Their jobs already pay them, 140% of what you make? I mean, I read you off the value of what these people make at the VA in Phoenix. $350,000, $370,000, $325,000 a year. What kind of an administrator makes $325,000 plus a year? What kind of paper-pushing, pencil-necked geek makes $325,000 a year? Who? What administrator in any private hospital makes that kind of money? Come on, name me a hospital. What kind of hospital pays their administrators that kind of money while those administrators are committing an act of criminality against the patients that they have an obligation to take care of? A human obligation. The heck with legal. Name me a president who says, our future rests on the success of Dream Kids. Our future rests on the success of people brought to the United States illegally as children who qualify for citizenship. If only Congress had passed the DREAM Act. But they wouldn't, so I did it myself, unilaterally, against my oath, against the orders of the Constitution, against every aspect, every element of power that has been seated in this position. Quote, about 30 to 40% of the kids in this school, by the way, are Dream Kids. You wouldn't know it by looking at them because they are as American as apple pie. But every single one of these kids, you might not be able to tell the difference, but a whole bunch of them, they're worried about whether or not they're going to be able to finance their college education of their immigrant status. That's his quote, not me. The grammar's his. They're worried about whether, in fact, this country that they love so deeply loves them back and understands that our future rests on their success. Why wouldn't we want to give them that certainty that you are part of the fabric of this nation? We're counting on you, and we're going to make sure you succeed. Why wouldn't we want to do that? Well, sir, we have an obligation to the people that actually elected you first and foremost. You have an obligation to those people who live here and were born here, have created and made this fabric that you're speaking of. They were the ones whose blood and fiber and tenon and sinew make up the fabric. The 3.5 million Americans who died in wars put on by scum like you. Not because it was a right thing to do, but because it was a way in which to, what, generate revenue for your pals and your cronies? Oh, come on, folks. Don't fall for the World War I, World War II synopsis that you've been given in high school. World War I, we were entered into, the Lusitania was directly driven with intent into an ambush so that they could generate enough anger on the part of sleepy Americans to say, let's go to war. And they knew about Pearl Harbor weeks in advance. In fact, why else would they have moved 4/5 of the fleet away? The documentation's out there. Go look it up for yourself. You don't need me to do it. I'm just reminding you of that which you already know. The Gulf of Tonkin. Bay of Pigs. How about Korea, where we barred the general from crossing over the river to actually attack the enemy? When we knew that the enemy wasn't really North Korea, they couldn't wipe their own rear ends if we'd handed them toilet paper. China was the enemy. We were fighting directly against Chinese special forces. The first Gulf War, to protect the petrodollar and the kingdoms of OPEC. You can thank George Bush Sr. for that one. Then the second Gulf War with his boy, to make sure that our vice president, Dick Cheney, could make sure that Halliburton got their piece, and their due. That and the rest of the military-industrial complex. While we exported democracy. Export democracy? First of all, we're not a democracy. We're a republic. Or have you forgotten? Secondly, we don't export anything because, frankly, we don't practice what we preach and we don't believe it. We're like the preacher who's standing up there touting living a sinless life, who's sleeping with 6 women in the congregation and drinking hard on a Friday night all the way right through to Sunday morning. It's a hypocritical position to take. We tout how wonderful democracy is, the vote of the people. And yet we have a duopoly system here in our own nation that shows us that there is no real choice. It's the illusion of choice. They're not as American as apple pie because their allegiance doesn't lie here. It's not our fault that they came here. In some cases, if they're children, it's not our fault or their fault that they're here either. But that doesn't mean that we have to destroy our own nation for something which was neither their fault nor ours. We're not obligated to commit suicide. Where in the pact does it say that? Show me, please. Pull it up by chapter and verse. Show me the pact where it says, in order to be a good human being, you have to commit suicide. You have to sacrifice yourself on the altar of altruism. Self-debasing. That you're not allowed to look out for your own first interest. Well, if you can't look out for your own first interest, then how are you ever supposed to have the capability, the resources, and the wherewithal to help those around you? I mean, if all of us are doing nothing but groveling and sacrificing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, how is anyone supposed to get high enough to be able to say, hold on a minute, neighbor, I've got enough strength and capability and wherewithal that I can lend some to you? But you see, what you hear from your government, what you hear from the media, when they give you and feed you this message of altruism, is like a parent who would put poison in their child's baby food jar and then spoon it into their mouth. The same parent who would never taste it themselves. If you all believe so much in altruism, then altruistically vacate the office. You want to do the whole nation and the world and the country a favor? Stop being an inept, treasonous traitor. Stop creating strife and problems. Vacate the office. Resign. That would be and show us that you actually live and practice what you preach. Joe, Barack, Eric, Jay, Chuck, resign. The lot of you. Show us that you truly believe in the altruism you advocate for us to show. Sacrifice yourselves. Let's see that first. Don't send troops over there, Barack. I want to see you kid up. Come on, throw on a bulletproof vest and go running over there into Kirkuk and clean those monsters out. You don't have the guts. You're a pathetic, blood-sucking vampire. The lot of you. It's a lot easier to sit back here at home and send young men to their deaths. It's a lot easier to sit back here at home and say, hey, come on up. You're all welcome. What kind of man, what kind of woman, what kind of person with a family and children of their own would say to total strangers, the door's open, you may have anything in this premise that you so choose. In fact, my family and I, if you demand it, we'll even move out and we'll sleep out in the shed in the back so that you all have a place to rest your heads. You may eat anything you want. Here's our bank account number. Here's our ATM card. Here's the keys to the car. All the food we've stored is down in the basement. Help yourselves. Who would do that? Who would sacrifice themselves on that altruistic altar? Who? Who would think that's valuable? Where is the logic? Where's the reason? Where's the justification? Where's the sense of self-preservation? That is a human trait. How is it that 12-year-old girl stabbed 19 times by two of her girlfriends over that Slender Man incident? Stabbed 19 times. And yet, her desire to live was so strong, she crawled. She crawled to the street with 19 holes bleeding in her to gain help. That's called the will to survive. The only people who don't have a will to survive have either lost it in some way, shape, or form, or have become so despairing that they are willing to terminate and take themselves out of the mix. And those people are helpless and, frankly, hopeless. Being altruistic and saying, here, it's free reign, take anything you choose. And when I come home from work on Friday, I'll have my check and I'll cash it and I'll distribute that amongst you. Total strangers. And your child walks up and says, but Daddy, you gave away all the food. We don't have anything to eat. I know, but it's our duty as humanitarians. We should go hungry so that others may eat. I know, Daddy, but this is the 4th day we haven't eaten. And that's okay, son. Tomorrow you'll be hungrier. What father would do that? What man of rational intelligence would do that? What nation would do that? What nation would say, it's really not an obligation of the president to represent the people of his own nation. It's the obligation of a president to represent people of foreign nations that he's never even visited. El Salvador, Guatemala, Brazil, Venezuela, Argentina, Peru, Chile. Border Patrol knows what's going on. They're saying that the flood of immigrants is orchestrated. It's a willful, chosen path of humanitarian crisis. To what end? Well, the president sits there in luxury. He's eating lobster tails tonight. He's working out at the gym. He's jumping on Air Force One, heading off to a fancy dinner where there's a nice, perfect filet mignon. But you should sacrifice yourself. You should commit the ultimate sacrifice for your fellow man. At my direction. Would someone please top off my wine glass? I'm a little short today. Please pass the caviar. You see, only liars and tyrants and traitors act like that. When you have border agents who come out, and they can only come out because they're former, and they say this is not a humanitarian crisis, it is a predictable, orchestrated, and contrived assault on the compassionate side of Americans by their political leaders who knowingly put minor illegal alien children at risk for purely political purposes. They are nothing more to them, to you, Barack, to you, Joe, to you, Val. Just collateral damage. See, it's a sea of faces. And they're all too far away for you to recognize the cherubic face of that little boy or that little girl. There's no love in you. There is only evil. There's no spirit in you. That's been crushed by the evil. There is only a yearning, a gnawing hole, clawing for power. Like the drug addict who absolutely cannot take it anymore. And you have put yourself and all of us on this path of destruction. And you can't even justify it or explain it to yourself. The officers say, certainly we are not gullible enough to believe that thousands of unaccompanied minor Central American children came to America without encouragement and the assistance of the United States government. What, these little 3-year-olds wandered for 2,600 miles? I mean, wouldn't their legs their little shorty legs, wouldn't they have been worn off down and they'd be walking up on their knees now on stubs, bloody stumps? I mean, they're only 3. How did they survive the 46-day trek? What did they eat? Who wiped their little heinies? Who changed their diapers? It's plain to see what's happened. It's clear. There's no doubts. This is done, orchestrated, coordinated, created, manufactured for political purposes. And political purposes that aren't worth what? These guys are such poor planners. They let 5 of the worst terrorists known on the planet go to get back 1 deserter and completely missed the public outcry that would ensue. They're so out of touch with reality, they just have no concept. They're isolated, insulated. They're thousands of Rapunzels living at the tops of towers, completely and totally unaware that the world is moving ahead without them down below. And if that's the case, that's called malfeasance. Then they have no right or authority to continue in power. And if I'm completely, totally, 155,000% wrong, then it's pure evil. And they are actively plotting, planning, and scheming to hurt the country they've sworn an oath to. And that's way past malfeasance. That's treason. Now, if you can find a third alternative to interject in there, which explains all this, justifies it, rationalizes it, okay, I'm listening. Email it to me, Mike@americasvoicenow.org. Because I can't wait. I can't wait to read this. It's not a mistake. It's a willful, intentional, evil act against the interests of those people which this nation believed these people had sworn an oath to. Who's guilty? Congress, Obama, Biden, every agency, every judge. Every one of them. Jay Johnson. All of them. They're all guilty. They're guilty of conspiring against those people that they owe their loyalty to. Not because they owe their or have voluntarily given their loyalty to people they don't owe it to. They're just using them as a pawn. They're no different than a murderer who picks up a weapon for expediency. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter who it belongs to. It's just useful for that moment. And that's a crime against God, humanity, and self. Our future rests on the success of dream kids, huh? No, it doesn't. Our future rests on Americans who have patiently sat here, loyally worked hard, put their own interests aside for the benefit of their countrymen, sacrificed, believed, fought, bled, and died. That's who our future belongs to. And that's who our future rests on.
It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
All right. So, the New World Keystone Kops, they're showing us their Mo Lowry and Curly moves. Whoop, 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 whoop. Why, certainly, Mo, absolutely. The New World Order. The lords, the ladies, the dukes, the duchesses of the New World Order. The royalty. We know what's best for you. You don't smell that lie? Like the stench of death and corruption? Half a million people are racing from Mosul into Crete, running away. Because, frankly, the Islamics who are pouring into the cities, taking them over, instituting extraordinarily strict, dictatorial, totalitarian Sharia. It's not a religion. It's a political ideology. Now, it's veiled by religious words and sounds, but it's really all about oppression. It's all about power. You'll pray or we'll kill you. What God believes in that? I don't care what other religion you believe in. I don't care if you believe in no religion. No God would sit and say, pray to me or die. Certainly not any God that would be worth worshiping. That's not a God that I want to participate with. That's not a God I want to look up at. That's not a God. That's a tormentor. What God would say, if someone refuses to pray to me, slice their throat open. What God would say that? None that I can think of. None that I want to certainly be associated with. But the Caliphate grows. Syria, Iraq. For what? Domination. They even use the word domination. The Muslim goal is world domination. As they enter these cities, they warn the women, do not leave your homes for purposes of modesty. What? How are they supposed to go and get a goat for dinner? How are they supposed to do the laundry? It's all a sham. It's all hypocrisy. You do this, but I don't have to. You do that, but don't look at me. Don't drink, but I can. Don't be gay, but I like little boys. They don't even rape their daughters. They rape their sons. This ain't me saying this, folks. Hey. They sew their women shut to represent that body part more closely. And they mutilate them so that they can never feel sexual pleasure, to keep them from wandering. Sickness. Who can justify that? Who can rationalize that? These stupid, foolish buffoons in the West. They have no concept, no clue. They have no idea how these people think. And they constantly make the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. They miscalculate because they think with a Western mind and think, well, because we think with a Western mind, everybody else does too. There's no rational thought process to this kind of evil, criminality, disdain for life. But they go to pretend. Well, if we make this common sense suggestion, I mean, we need common sense reform. Their idea of common sense reform is, should we sharpen the knife before we slit this idiot's throat or not? I mean, if we don't sharpen it, we're going to have to saw back and forth a few times, and it's going to hurt him a little bit more. And he'll be in terror for a few more seconds. Let's send him off to the shaitan that way. You pathetic, stupid, foolish huckster. You've huckstered yourselves and all the rest of us. Buffoons, stupid fools, arrogance, hubris, self-importance. Either way you look at it, these people who, in our government and in the Western world, and I'm talking about all of Europe and all the rest of them, either they are malfeasant in the sense that they are incompetent and inept, or it's willful and intentional, which is an act of treason against their own nations, against their own sworn oaths, against the people who they owe a fiduciary responsibility to, irrespective of what country they're from. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why the world is generally pissed off. Don't you see it? The Western world is angry with our leadership because we're tired of being betrayed, either by ineptitude or criminality. And either way, the end result is betrayal, so we don't really care from whence it came. We're just sick and tired of the Keystone Kops leaving us holding the bill, holding the blood, while they waltz off to another caviar party in a tuxedo. The headline at the National Journal is, Congress's Iraq vets helplessly watch their gains lost. What was the point of all that? Asked Congressman Perry. Well, I don't mean to denigrate anything from these three men's individual service. But I've got to ask you, the insult of that headline is as if I should care more about what Congress's Iraq vets think than the non-congressional Iraq vets. Yes, these same ones who have been begging for a medical appointment. Ask me if I give a hang about the Keystone Kops in Congress and whether or not they feel as if their gains were lost. What gains? No one won. We killed millions. Millions. For what? We're going to free the crap out of you. What kind of freedom is that? It's no different than the freedom offered by ISIS, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda. Capitulate or die. Bow down and pray or die. Our argument is what? Salute or die? The hell do we think we are? Who do you think you are? It just goes to show you, it wasn't about selling them democracy. Because the foolishness of that entire argument is exposed before you finish expounding upon it. You can't free people by blowing them up. Unbelievable. Americans are smart enough to see it. I know you stand there like this, trying desperately not to admit I know you don't want to take the blinders off. Because it means you got to do something about it. You can't just stand there now. You see how close the train is. Can't just stand there in the face of betrayal from your own nation, your own alleged leaders. Three congressmen on the Hill are deeply concerned. Right now, I wonder what it was all about, he says. What was the point of all that? Well, I don't know, but you're living in Congress at $180,000 a year. And I'm far more worried about the 65,000 wounded who are rolling around in wheelchairs, unable to find a job, living homelessly, sitting there right now playing Russian roulette with a pistol or a shotgun in their mouth because they can't get medical help, they can't find a job, their country's betrayed them, they smell it, see it, and taste it, They can't wipe the rape oil, the snake oil off their skin no matter how many showers they take. I'm a little bit more concerned about them right at the moment. Your feelings are secondary. You're going home to your fancy house. Steve, he's going to go home, and he's lucky if he's got a trailer. No, the bathroom doesn't work right. And he can't really get a job because this stinking metal foot just can't drive a truck no more. It's on disability for, what, a measly $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month. His gross domestic product to try to feed his family and take care of his kids is, what, $18,000 a year? And you're sitting there in a Georgetown condo that's got $18,000 a month in taxes. And you're being taken out to dinner 3 out of 5 nights a week by some lobbyist who has no problem dropping, what, $600, $800 on fine wine, cigars, a beautiful T-bone. Steve, he's back there trying to figure out whether it's going to be peanut butter and jelly tonight or a bowl of cereal. And he's got this problem, this hacking cough he just can't get rid of because he was sitting there in that flat desert sandbox, that cat box, that litter box, and breathing in all that smoke. You know, that oil smoke. But, you know, you've been to Bethesda. And the doctors have taken such good care. And he's still waiting for a call back from the VA. Now, he signed up, you know, I think it was, as I recall, 2010. It's only been 3 years. Maybe 4. And the cough is getting worse. So forgive us, Congressman, if we're really not all that concerned about your feelings about Iraq and the wasted lives and the wasted effort and the wasted wounds and the wasted maimings and the wasted minds while you sold democracy. Buy this or else. See, the real problem here is that when you got to Congress, you forgot. When you got to Congress, you stripped off that beautiful thing called honor. And you took off that thing called integrity. And you threw away those gowns. Those shields. And you became a player. You allowed the wine to go to your head at dinner. And the lobbyist made, so much sense. And your colleague said, listen, unless you vote this way, we can't support your bill. And you're so desperate to get that bill passed because, after all, you really want to honor somebody back home with naming a post office after them. And the sum total of your legislative drive has been to support your friends across the aisle. And we're starving, and we're hungry, and we're desperate, and we're broke. Our country's in a shambles. And the National Journal tells us we should worry about your reaction. I think I can do without the propaganda for today. I think I can make my own choices. I trust people to know what's in their own best interest. I trust people who don't have a motive of corruption and dishonor to be allied to the truth. And your judgment is hampered, skewed, twisted, false, manipulated. You're listening to America's Voice now. You can communicate with me directly at Mike at America's Voice now. We'll be right back. Swap of the Taliban 5 and their release, which I've told you already was not 5, it was 10. The ante they put up just to open the negotiation was 5 previous to this. And when they were negotiating for purely money alone, a ransom, as it were, the president and his team put a stop to that and said, no, we're going to release men. And he ran them around his own inner circle like a bunch of inebriated drunks. They began to believe they were justified in their own treason. You know, get a bunch of young fellas sitting around, and they drink a little too much, maybe smoke a little too much. And the next thing you know, somebody raises some stupid idea, and as the conversation runs around the room, they've lost enough of their thinking process they're just inebriated enough to say, yeah, let's go do that. Now, no one picks up the phone and says, well, hold on a second, let me call my sister and see if she thinks this is a good idea. Because his sister, who's home straight, would say, what are you, nuts? That's stupid. You guys are going to get yourselves in trouble. But not this crew. The difference is, this isn't a couple of teenage boys out for a lark who cause a little mayhem, maybe a little damage, spray paint a few signs. This is the President of the United States. This is the staff at the White House. This is the Pentagon, the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This is Eric Holder, the Department of Justice. This is Charles Hagel, the Department of Defense. This is Jay Johnson in Department of Homeland Security. This is John Kerry in the State Department and the entire executive staff at the White House. And theirs was an act of treason. This was a criminal conspiracy. And they don't even have the luxury of saying, we drank and smoked a little too much. We just kind of lost it there for a minute. Because these guys were plotting and conspiring and colluding for months. The difference is intent. The difference between manslaughter and murder one, is clear. Bob and I got into a scrap. I punched Bob and I landed one on his chin. And as he fell back, he smacked his head on a curb and he died. It was an accident. I never meant to kill him. That's manslaughter. Versus, I know I'm meeting Bob tonight and I hate that dude's guts. And I know exactly where he's going to be and when he's going to be there and who he's going to be with. And I am bringing a weapon tonight and I intend to remove him from the world. And when he sees Bob, he walks up to him and he pulls out that gun and he looks him right in the eye and he says, Bob, I've always hated you. Pow! That's premeditated murder. And the difference is huge. The release of the Taliban 5 was a willful, intentional, premeditated act of treason. And the players, Barack, Joint Chiefs, Eric Holder, the entire Department of Justice, every member thereof, guilty by association. Nonetheless, guilty. Chuck Hagel, the Department of Defense, and every member therein. Jay Johnson, the DHS, and every one of his allies. John Kerry, State Department. That shameful mouthpiece that comes out on television. What's her name? Jen Psaki. Sits there and tells the media what everyone in the room knows is a bald-faced lie. I mean, it's incredible to me. How could you be a journalist today, working in the White House, the State Department, or any one of these agencies, and hear these meaningless mouthpieces come out and daily lie to your face, knowing that they're lying? They know that you know they're lying, and not just want to leap out of your chair, run up there, and strangle one of them. This, ladies and gentlemen, was a criminal conspiracy. It's not the first one. Guarantee you it will not be the last. But it was premeditated. It was plotted, schemed, connived. They colluded. They conspired to aid and abet a known terrorist organization, an enemy combatant, and they provided material support with intention, willful intent. How do we know? Well, today they're coming out and saying, yes, we expect that 4 out of 5 will go back to do battle. But they won't come back to do battle with us probably because we won't be there. But they're there now, and we're there now. And the actions that they are taking in Qatar, how do you know that they're not planning, scheming, conniving right now? I heard some buffoon idiot say, they've been out of commission for 12 years. They're out of practice. Out of practice? What kind of an absolute retarded damn fool would you be to make a statement like that? You think Al Capone couldn't have gotten out of jail and gone right back to being, what, the gangster thug? You would sit there and say that about the Taliban 5, but you wouldn't give that same level of credibility or credence to your own countrymen. Those criminals get out of jail, they're recidivists, they go right back in for committing crime. But the Taliban 5, they're going to go home and they're going to be good fellas now. You mean to tell me you will sit there and give mass murderers more credibility than you'll give your own countrymen? They're not my countrymen. I don't hang around that kind of ilk. What? Why? 'Cause what? He sold a couple of bags of crack? Well, he didn't butcher men, women, and children. Doesn't excuse what he did, but the difference is stark. And I don't buy the argument about Bergdahl. He's an excuse. You intentionally, willfully loosed an enemy of the United States on the United States and every soldier currently in Afghanistan. And you did it with willful intent. Every last one of you should be tried for treason. Every agency involved in that decision should be disbanded. You Keystone pathetic pukes can't even get your arguments together and your excuses together. You got the president blaming Chuck Hagel, which is the only reason Chuck Hagel, the Republican, is in that job, so he could lay the blame on him when the time came. And you got Chuck Hagel turning around and saying, wasn't me, it was the boss. He told me what to do. Just goes to prove the adage, there is no loyalty among thieves. And you, the lot of you, are a den of thieves and make Alibaba and the 40 look like Boy Scouts. Treason is inexcusable. Treason's worse than that. It's unforgivable. These men are assassins, murderers of children, murderers of women. Not war, not enemy combatants, civilians. Genocide. Guilty. By your own admission. You've told us they're guilty. You don't even deny their guilt. So what justification have you now? What justification can you possibly pull out of the magic bag of tricks to make us believe that this was justified, that this was right, that this was good, that this is to the betterment of the United States of America, that not a single young American life is going to be lost, that not a single another soldier is going to come home missing a foot or an arm or an eye? This is the hypocrisy of the entire thing. Some person, makes a bank deposit that's over $10,000 or a withdrawal, and the next thing you know, you're looking up their skirt to see, are they donating to terror? Meanwhile, you got the DEA out there laundering hundreds of billions of dollars. Hundreds of billions for the cartels. The same cartels that you're cutting deals with. Then you let 5 Talibanese monsters go back to wreak havoc amongst our men who are still there. Meanwhile, you've got, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of veterans who can't even see a doctor. And these 5 Taliban had, a doctor for every 1.5 of them. They went home fattened, in good health, bereft of any disease, their teeth cleaned, their beards combed. They're living in the lap of luxury in Qatar. They're at a resort, sunning themselves. They're speaking out to their leadership. They're being debriefed. They're plotting. They're conniving. They're figuring how many more and how can we get more of these soldiers? How many more can we get? Because each one, no matter what a piece of SE is worth at least 5 of us. I mean, and if you guys weren't such big titles, might have been worth 10. And this piece of S, who is really trying desperately to empty out Guantanamo so he can have a legacy, he'll come up with any fantastical excuse to let another 10 or 15 or 20 of us go. How can we kill a few more? How can we use this to our betterment? How can we make sure that we use this to recruit more young, foolishly tricked young men into thinking that this is all about religious fervor and not about political ideology? How can we get more pawns for us to push into the meat grinder using your freedom and their traitor and deserters' history? Chuck Hagel had the gall to act frustrated and annoyed that he was being questioned about his honor and his integrity. What honor and integrity? First of all, you were a member of Congress long before you became the head of the Department of Defense, which tells me that you long ago took off the armor of honor and integrity long, long, long before you ever accepted the job from the devil himself. Oh, the faux outrage. I hope you're not insinuating. I would have said, no, I'm not insinuating anything. I'm calling you a traitor. I'm calling you a traitor right here, right now, to your oath, to your nation, to the people of this country, to every soldier who is currently out there, to every soldier who's laying in a bed missing a foot, to everyone who's going to still go into surgery for the 8th time. For the soldier who can see and will never know what his children look like. That's what I'm calling you, Chuck. I'm calling you out. I'm calling you a traitor to your nation. That's what I'd say to him, and I'd say it on camera. Without fear, without trepidation, without recrimination. And when he jumps up out of his seat to storm out in shame, I'd say, you sit down. We haven't released you yet. But we're too soft. We're all gentlemen. We're statesmen. Statesmen, hell. You're traitors. The fact that you've allowed Barack Obama to get away with this, the fact that you've allowed Chuck Hagel to walk out of there a free man, not in cuffs, on a perp walk towards a permanent orange jumpsuit, that tells me everything I need to know. That's not fair. He needs to have a full investigation. Yeah, right. Just like you've been investigating Fast and Furious, like you've been investigating the IRS, like you've been investigating Barack Obama and his fake Social Security number and the fact that he doesn't have a real birth certificate. Like you've been investigating what? every other scandal that's going on, like you're going to investigate the VA while thousands more go without care and maybe dozens or hundreds even die. That kind of investigation? You mean the ones that take a long time while you guys go out and lunch on lobster, bisque? And go home to your fine Georgetown home and sit on your $3,000 couch? Count the money in your re-election campaign, donated by corporations, not by a single one of your constituents? That kind of investigation? That's what I thought. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. Please make sure that you support our sponsors, because these are the folks that keep us on the air every day. I'd like you to visit our friends over at American Resume Service. You can find them at AmericanResumeService.com. You can call them at 417-264-2486. 417-264-2486. You can email them at info@AmericanResumeService.com. Their program for America's Voice Now listeners is their $200 resume package is 50% off or $100. Then they will donate that whole $100 to America's Voice Now to keep this program on the air. I think that's a worthwhile expenditure, and I think it's a great and honorable thing. If you need a resume, you won't go wrong. Make sure that you visit our friends over at Battery Station at batterystation.com. They're true American patriots, and you will not be disappointed by doing business with them. 417-257-7799, batterystation.com. It's 417-257-7799. Our friends over at Pizza Hut, local folks here on the location on Porter Wagoner Boulevard, have been very supportive of this program. Tuesdays and Thursdays, they have a reduced price lunch. It's $5. Salad bar, pizza, pasta bar. Tuesday night, kids under 12 eat free. It's family night. All you got to do is go in there anytime, any day, and let your server know that you heard about their restaurant on America's Voice Now. Make sure that you see our friends over at Atlas Survival Shelters. If you think you'd like to have a shelter that you can bury in your backyard for you and your family, for any emergency, any kind of situation, man-made or natural, AtlasSurvivalShelters.com. Make sure you see and visit our friends over at SurvivalByPreparedness.com. That's SurvivalByPreparedness.com. SpringCreekBeef.com. SpringCreekBeef.com. All natural, 100% grass-fed beef shipped straight to your door. Best you'll ever find. And it's no more or hardly more expensive than what you would pay in your local store. Make sure that you visit their website. Give them a call. Make sure you visit the Go Green Festival, which will be occurring on the later on this month. Go Green Festival is going to be held down on the 21st and 22nd. That is Saturday and Sunday in Thayer. Admission is free. If you'd like to have a vendor table there, that is free as well. If you're interested in more information about it, you can call 417-264-2435 to get more information about that. That's 417-264-2435. You can ask for Mike, and Mike will be happy to provide you with all of the details, including what the issues are surrounding how many vendor slots he's got left. There's no charge for you to be a vendor there. You have a business and you'd like to participate, that's great. If you'd like to make a donation to them at the end of that, if you've done quite a significant amount of business, then by all means, please feel free to do so. This is a great program. Lots of good speakers. Have a great day, folks. God bless you. We'll see you on Monday.